The scent of freshly baked bread wafted through the air as Ben dashed out of his schoolyard, eager to begin his daily adventure. His laughter echoed against the ancient cobblestone streets, and the warm sun kissed his cheeks as he ran. The village was a patchwork of quaint houses, surrounded by a sea of green fields and the whispering whispers of the forest that grew alongside the river. Ben's eyes were always drawn to the mysteries that lay beyond the village's edge, where the world was a canvas of possibility. As he approached the forest, the trees grew closer, their branches forming a cool, shady tunnel. The dirt path was soft under his feet, and he could hear the gentle babble of the river in the distance. His heart raced with excitement as he stepped off the beaten track and into the tall grass, feeling the tickle of the blades against his legs. It was here, in the quiet embrace of nature, that Ben felt most alive. He heard the sound of water splashing and froze. His curiosity piqued. Ben tiptoed closer to the river's edge. Through the swaying grass, he spotted a group of children playing by the water's edge. They were older than him, and Ben knew he should stay away, but their laughter was infectious. He watched from a safe distance, his heart fluttering with a mix of envy and wonder. "Ben, what are you doing here?" A sharp voice startled him, and Ben whirled around to see his mother, her apron fluttering in the breeze. She had a stern look on her face, but Ben knew she was worried. "You know you're not supposed to go near the river without me." Ben's shoulders slumped. "I'm sorry, Mom," he mumbled. "I just wanted to see." "See what?" she asked, her tone softening. "The big kids," he admitted. "They look like they're having so much fun." His mother's expression softened. "I know you want to explore, but the river can be dangerous. Besides, there are plenty of adventures you can have without getting into trouble." Ben nodded solemnly, and she handed him a small lunch pail. "Why don't you go play in the meadow until it's time to help me with the garden?" He took the pail reluctantly, his gaze lingering on the water. As he walked away, he couldn't help but feel a twinge of disappointment. Yet somewhere deep inside, he knew that his mother was right. He had his own adventures to find, and they didn't have to be in places that scared her. The meadow was a sea of wildflowers, their colors a kaleidoscope against the emerald grass. The sun painted the scene with a warm, golden light, and Ben's spirits lifted as he began to explore. It was here, amidst the dancing butterflies and the hum of bees, that he found his first clue to an adventure all his own. A piece of paper, tattered and worn, was caught in the embrace of a daisy. Ben gently pulled it free, and as he unfolded it, he revealed a map. It was drawn in a childish hand, with a big red X marked in the center. Intrigued, he studied it closely, noticing the familiar landmarks scattered around the edges. It was a map of the very forest he was standing on the edge of. The map was a treasure in itself, but what could it mean? Ben's imagination ran wild with thoughts of hidden treasures and secret hideaways. He couldn't wait to show it to Mr. Thomas. Maybe he knew something about it, or perhaps it was a riddle that only he could solve. As he made his way back to the village, the map clutched tightly in his hand. He couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched. The shadows danced around him, and the rustling of the leaves grew louder. He glanced over his shoulder, his heart thumping in his chest, but saw nothing but the endless stretch of the forest. When Ben reached the village, he found Mr. Thomas sitting outside his cottage, carving a piece of wood. The elder looked up and smiled, his eyes twinkling as Ben approached. "What have you got there, young man?" he asked, his curiosity piqued. Ben held out the map, his voice trembling with excitement. "I found this in the meadow. Does it mean anything to you?" Mr. Thomas took the map and studied it for a moment before chuckling. "Ah, this is an old map from when I was a lad. It leads to the hidden glade where we used to play as children. But the treasure you seek," he said, winking, "is the joy of the journey and the friends you make along the way." Ben's face fell. "But what about the X?" "The X marks the spot of our favorite adventure," Mr. Thomas said, his eyes distant with memories. "But the true treasure is the stories we shared and the lessons we learned." With a pat on the back, Mr. Thomas sent Ben on his way, urging him to enjoy the rest of his afternoon. Ben looked down at the map, feeling a mix of disappointment and determination. Maybe the treasure wasn't gold or jewels, but the excitement of discovery and the satisfaction of conquering fears. With renewed energy, he set off to find the glade, eager to uncover the secrets it held. The path grew narrow and overgrown as Ben ventured deeper into the forest. The canopy of leaves above him created a cool, dappled shade, and the air grew thick with the scent of earth and pine. He heard the whispers of the trees and the rustling of creatures that watched him pass. The map grew damp with his sweat, but he didn't care. He was on a quest, and nothing would stop him. As he approached the spot marked with the X, the trees parted to reveal a clearing bathed in soft, golden light. The glade was untouched by time, with a small stream babbling through its center. Ben's heart raced as he stepped into the clearing, feeling like he had discovered something magical. In the center of the glade stood a massive oak tree, its branches stretching out like welcoming arms. Carved into the trunk was a heart with the initials JT+EM. Ben realized with a start that it was Mr. Thomas's and Mrs. Jenkins's initials. It dawned on him that the treasure Mr. Thomas spoke of was the love that had grown between the two of them here, in this very spot. Ben knew that sometimes the most valuable treasures were the ones you couldn't hold in your hand, but rather in your heart. And as he sat beneath the ancient oak, sharing his lunch with a curious squirrel, he felt richer than he ever had before. The squirrel's antics brought a smile to Ben's face, and he couldn't help but feel a kinship with the little creature. It was as if the glade itself had accepted him, welcomed him into its embrace. He took a deep breath, filling his lungs with the pure, untouched air, and felt a sense of peace wash over him. As Ben finished his meal, he noticed something shiny beside the stream. His heart leaped with excitement, thinking it might be the treasure he had been searching for. He sprinted over, only to find a small stone, polished smooth by the river's touch. It was not gold or jewels, but to Ben, it was a treasure nonetheless. He pocketed the stone, feeling its warmth against his skin. It was a reminder of the adventure he had embarked on, and the truth he had discovered about the real treasures in life. The shadows grew longer, and Ben knew he had to return home. He folded the map carefully and placed it in his pocket alongside the stone. As he made his way back to the village, he couldn't help but feel that the glade had shared a secret with him. The X on the map was not just a spot in the woods, but a symbol of the magic that could be found in the simplest of places. When Ben reached the edge of the forest, the older children from the river saw him, their eyes wide with surprise. "Hey, Ben," one of them called out. "You found the secret glade." Ben's chest puffed with pride. He had not only found the glade, but had learned a valuable lesson along the way. He nodded and gave them a knowing smile. "Yes, I did," he said, "and it's more wonderful than I ever imagined." The children looked at each other, whispering about the treasure Ben might have found. But Ben knew better. He had discovered something far more precious than gold. He had found a place where he could be himself, where he could dream and explore without fear. And as he walked back to his village, his heart lighter than it had ever been. He knew that every day was an adventure waiting to happen, filled with treasures of friendship, love, and the beauty of the world around him. The whispers grew louder as Ben approached the village square, and soon, a crowd had gathered around him, eager to hear his tale. He pulled out the map and the smooth stone, showing them with a flourish. "The treasure isn't gold or jewels," he announced, his voice strong and clear. "It's the adventure we share, the memories we make, and the love that binds us all." The villagers looked at him in amazement, and even the older children seemed to understand. Ben had found something they had all been searching for in their own way, a connection to the world that went beyond the material. His mother, watching from the sidelines, beamed with pride. She had taught him well, and now he was sharing those lessons with others. Days turned into weeks, and Ben continued his adventures. Each day, he would explore a little further, discovering new wonders and sharing his stories with the villagers. He grew in confidence, and the children looked up to him as a leader, eager to join him on his daily expeditions. They called themselves Ben's band of explorers, and together, they turned the village into a place of wonder and excitement. One evening, as the sun set over the fields, casting a warm glow over the cobblestone streets, Ben sat on the steps of the village well, surrounded by his new friends. They listened in awe as he recounted tales of hidden waterfalls, whispering trees, and the secret lives of the creatures that lived in the forest. He told them of the glade and how it had changed him. And as the stars began to twinkle in the night sky, Ben knew that he had found his true treasure, the gift of storytelling and the power to inspire others. The whispers of the forest grew faint as the village's laughter and chatter filled the air. Ben looked around at the faces of his friends, their eyes alight with the same curiosity that had driven him to explore. He realized that his simple act of honesty unlocked the door to a world of imagination and wonder. And as the moon rose high above them, casting long shadows across the square, Ben knew that he had become part of a much larger adventure, the adventure of life in the village by the river.